Welcome to another episode with Mr. Jimenez in geometry. So today we're going to talk about circles, okay, and all the circle terminology. And as we go on, we're going to continue to expand our vocabulary on circles. So the first thing that we're going to be talking about are some of the terms that you've heard of, and these are as the follows. So we have the radius of the circle, which simply is just a line segment drawn from the center of the circle to any point on the circle. So again, it's a segment, remember. So that goes from the center of the circle, and the center here is A. It goes from A to a point on the circle. So an example here would be AB, because that goes from the center to a point on the circle. Another example of a radius would be AC, and finally another example would be AD. Next we have a diameter of the circle, and simply a diameter goes from one point on the circle to another point on the circle, okay, and it also passes through the center. So in this case we have a point on the circle that is D per se, and another point on the circle C, and the line that connects them would be DC. Notice that A is the center of the circle, so the diameter is DC. Okay, now a chord would be similar to the diameter of the circle. It's just that a chord does not pass through the center. Okay, so in this case the chord would be DB. Okay, all it is terminology. A chord goes from a point on the circle to another point on the circle. It just doesn't go through the center of the circle. We've been talking about circles, but what is a circle really? What is it? So a circle is just the collection of all points that are the same distance from the center. Looking at point A here, this point, okay, all of the points that are the same distance from A, that is what makes a circle. So notice that all of these points around are the same distance away from A, okay, right? If I do this distance, that distance is the same as this distance, is the same as this distance, right? All of these are gonna be radii, okay? All of those are going to be radii. That's all a circle is. It's a collection of points that are the same distance away from the center. Now we're going to be talking about minor and major arcs, okay? An arc of a circle is just the outside part of a circle, okay? So notice I have two shaded pieces. I have the yellow piece and I have the green portion. Okay, so I want to describe an arc here that is a minor arc. A minor arc is simply an arc that measures less than 180 degrees. Notice that a full circle measures 360 degrees. Notice that a minor arc here, this arc right here, is less than 180 degrees. Okay, so how do we say this notation? We'll say arc, okay, so you say AB for the minor arc, you say AB, and you just put some sort of a circle around, okay, and that arc is always going to be less than 180 degrees. Now for the major arc, right, you're always going to have three letters. Now for major arc, you would say, okay, it's A, or still B, because it goes all the way from A to B, and then you just name one letter in the middle of AB, okay? And so C in this case would be that letter, okay? There might be more than one, but three is all we need. And so a major arc is more than 180 degrees, okay? So in this case, we could have the yellow arc, arc AB, would measure 60 degrees, and so that means that arc ACB has to measure 300 degrees, right? It would have to measure 380 degrees because those two have to add up to 360 degrees. Going back to our example here, we have a minor arc and we would call that DB, right? So minor arc, so DB is a minor arc, okay? And so what it would be the major arc to that minor arc? Well, it would be the one that's remaining, okay? So that arc would be arc D all the way CB. So we would call that arc D, the letter in the middle, C, and then B. And don't forget your symbol, okay? And this is the major arc, okay? We don't know how much they measure, but we do know that they both have to add up to 360 degrees. And lastly, we have our big idea for today, which is central angle, okay? All that a central angle is just an angle inside of a circle that's its vertex is at the center. Okay, so the vertex of this angle is at A, and A is the center of the circle. So in this case, so the measure of angle BAC is 75 degrees. That means that the arc intercepted by that angle, this arc right here, BC, is the arc trapped, okay? It's the arc trapped in that angle, would also be 75 degrees, right? Or if our central angle is 75 degrees, then that means arc BC is also 75 degrees. Well, what if my question was, what is the measure, right? What is the measure of arc BKC? What is that arc? Well, I know that the whole circle is 360 degrees, and I know part of that is already 75 degrees. So now that means that BKC has to measure 285 degrees, right? That means that the measure of BKC has to be 285 degrees, right? Because 285 plus 75 is 360 degrees. So here's a check for understanding, okay? So you're going to have to name a radius, a chord, a diameter, a minor and a major arc, and also a central angle, okay? So this is your check for understanding. As soon as you're done with this piece, call me over so I can check your work.